Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to answer your most asked questions. So we went onto Google, we basically searched on Google and it spat out a bunch of questions that are commonly asked and we're going to answer them. And the best time to do that is when you're sitting next to guys like Joe who have been involved in brewing or maltings for how long?
In malting for 7 years or so.
7 years worth of malting. Professional in the brewing cells of malting, I'd say.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I get paid for it, so yes, I am a professional.
And we can actually give Joe a little bit of a test and answer your questions at the same time. So no pressure, Joe.
Far away.
All right, let's go for it. I've got it here on my cell phone. All right, very tough one, extremely hard. What is the difference between malted and unmalted barley?
Cool. So when we're talking about unmalted barley, typically within the brewing process, we'd be talking about adjunct barley.
Okay.
So an opportunity to introduce a lower cost raw material to sort of make up the grain bill alongside malt. So malt is barley or another grain, could be wheat or rye or oats, that's been through the malting process.
Okay.
That malting process, to really boil it down to its pure essences, is a process of converting the starchy endosperm within a grain down to smaller chain sugars to make them accessible for yeast during the malting process.
Okay.
An unmalted grain has not got that benefit of the breakdown,
Okay.
so relies on enzymes from malt that is in the grain bill, or exogenous enzymes to break that down within the brewing process.
And am I correct in saying that those adjuncts aren't going to be bringing any kind of that fermentable sugars?
They will be bringing those fermentables, but they rely on enzymes from the malt or from external sources to break down the starches, which the yeast can latch onto.
Okay, all right, great stuff. Okay, that was the first question. Tough one, I know.
More to it than what you thought.
Yeah. All right, what are the two main categories of malt?
Simple. We've got our base malts and our specialities.
Okay.
So base malts would make up the vast majority of a grain bill, and then within the specialities, that's where we're talking about our crystals, our roasteds, whether it be a wheat or a rye malt, that sort of fits into the speciality.
Okay, all right. And the roasteds and the toasteds and all the other kind of flavorings that you're going to get in malt.
Yeah, anything that you'd use in small amounts, that's what we'd classify within that speciality.
Speciality side, okay. A little bit tougher, probably not as easy to answer. What is the typical ratio of base malts to speciality malts in a typical grain bill?
So this is both a really easy and a slightly harder question to answer. The easy side of it is it completely depends on what you're brewing. Simple as, cut dry, put that to one side. But in general, we'd say on average anywhere from 100% to 75% of a grist bill is going to be base malts, and then 0 to 25% will be made up of specialities of varying products. But going back to answer one, it is completely dependent on what beer you're trying to brew.
Okay, all right. Simple and easy. What is the role of speciality malts in brewing?
We can look at it as a broader term in general. What's the role of malt? And it's for flavour, it's for ABV, it's all of the things that you want out of a beer. But looking at specialty malts in particular, you're looking at flavour, number one, colour, all of those things, like mouthfeel. You can get all of these characteristics of beer from your specialities and just malts in general. So they really do impart so much sensory characteristics to a beer. If you dial up this and dial up that, you can get a completely different type of beer.
And I know just walking around the factory and you start actually tasting the raw malt, so unbrewed malts and stuff like that, you get those hits of flavors and that, like those chocolates. You're gonna get chocolates and coffees and caramels and all those great flavors. And that's kind of what you're trying to push into your beer in a way, which...
Yeah, absolutely. It's depending on what you want as an end product and then reverse engineer it. If you want that color, you want that flavor of, say, roasted malts and roasted coffees and chocolates, you're going to have to select those malts in particular. If you don't want that, you then put them aside for the next brew. So it really does depend on what you want to get out of a beer.
All right, no, cool. How do you determine the viscosity of the malt?
That's done on the wort.
Okay.
So we would do a mash in our lab and put it through a viscometer.
Okay. Ooh, this is a good one. This is a goodie.
I feel nervous.
Ooh, this is a question that I like to kind of, it'll help a lot of brewers. And this is one that you can definitely answer. It's not a tough question, but it's an enjoyable question. It's not an enjoyable question, but it's a question.
It's a question.
Yeah. How do you store malt? So what is a good way to actually store your malt? So
there's a couple of key things that you need to be conscious of with malt. That it's relatively hygroscopic. So if you store it in a very humid environment, the malt will take up moisture in time. So the packaging that we pack into will protect for a decent amount of time. But yeah, it will take up malt. So making sure that it's somewhere dry, number one. Relatively cool. So anywhere warm, you're inviting things to come in and have a snack on it. So cool and dry. And again, elevated. So you don't want to leave malt sacks on the floor because our little fairy friends, rats and mice, you may have the most spotless brewery ever. They will find a way to get in, and malt is an amazingly tasty snack. So they'll find it. So cool, dry, and elevated. They're the three things that we'd say you'd be pretty good with malt storage on.
So and it's kind of better to have your whole malt than crushed malt, and it's exactly for that kind of moisture?
Yeah, in terms of freshness, so the packaging that we use should maintain that freshness on crushed malts if stored correctly. But absolutely, if that's something that you're really passionate about, taking whole malt and crushing just before you brew will obviously offer the best, freshest malt.
Okay, great stuff. So there you go, guys. Your questions answered by Joe. And if there are any more questions that you're wanting to know, pop down in the comments below. We'll be glad to speak to guys from Muntons to answer your malt-related questions. And as always, guys, happy brewing.